We are live. Just started though, so give people a few minutes.
All right. Are you hearing me now?
Who's that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we have some attendees now, so we
Yep.
should be live.
We should be good.
Before we open the meeting, recognize the mayor.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. I'd show you my face, but Bill looks really good as me, so that's pretty good. I just wanted everyone to know, during these meetings, I'm being very educated. I don't come to the ZBA meetings when they were at City Hall. I've been getting complaints about, different buildings, different things, you're not paying attention. Gee, Meredith, you look great. And so I wanted everyone to know that, first of all, I'm not getting involved because I favor one or the other. I'm speaking because I want to learn. And I'm speaking because when as all boards and commissions, when they scream and holler and saying, well, your boards and your commission, they don't know. I like to defend you, but I need to know what you're doing before I can defend you. And you're doing a great job, first of all. I want to thank you all. I've seen you all in action. I've seen someone recuse themselves, someone actually say, no, I'm going to do it this way. We need to do that way and everything else. So first of all, I want to thank you. It's not easy because some of these things that are coming back and forth, I'm going like, wow. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean. Also, I am not coming on any site visits that you may have, God bless you all, or anything unless I'm a butter. I just wanted to educate myself, and it's not just the ZBA, I'm going on everything that is on Zoom right now, which is kind of good because I'm learning Planning Bird, I'm learning everything I could possibly learn about my boards. Now I want to ask you if you know anyone out there that might want to be an alternative, because this way you can always have an alternative coming on, please let me know. Because this way we can start doing that process. I'm going to be looking for, I guess we have 2 openings, I believe.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to see the criteria and everything else. And in order for me to help approve, because as we appoint and then the city council approves, I want to make sure that I'm getting the right appointees. And when I do the interviews, I know more of the zoning board. I'm learning. If sometimes I get upset or misquote and I don't know what I'm talking about, be patient and then just say, Joe kindly say, Mayor, thank you. Did you get your information? Goodbye now. So I thank you again. I'm just going to pay attention and watch. And again, I am not here for any purpose at all. And I'm not going on any site visits or anything else unless I'm a butter. Have a good night. And thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me this few minutes.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call to order the October 8th, 2020 remote meeting of the City of Gloucester Zoning Board of Appeals. Consistent with the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and banning gatherings of more than 25 people, this meeting will be conducted by remote participation to the greatest extent possible. For the record, this is meeting ID 886-4511-1644. The members of the board present, Michael Nyman, Peter Canavo, Catherine Schlichty, and myself, Joe Parisi. So we have 4 members present, which would be required to approve anything tonight. First order of business is the approval of minutes. We received minutes for the 9/3/2020 meeting. Is those the only ones we have, Allison?
You muted, Allison.
Okay. So
Yes, sorry about that.
everyone received those. I'd like to motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. Made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are accepted. Now we'll move to the continued hearings, old business. There's a petition of Carol Bailey and James Tiernan seeking a special permit for variance for left side yard, rear yard to allow addition of a single bay attached garage with storage in addition to existing house, right side at 97 Leonard Street. Are they here?
Don't see them.
Now, that was the people that submitted the request for a continuance this week.
Yes.
I think we tried to make it clear to them that you should appear and ask for a continuance. Michael, you were in this involved in this case also, right? So we do.
It
still
was.
have a quorum?
I was not here in the last meeting, but I was here in the first one.
Like the last one, we didn't do anything because we didn't have a quorum.
Ah, okay, all right.
So who else was not, was it Adria that was not involved in that one? So I think we do have 4 members, and we could entertain a motion to continue. They had asked about the next meeting, but I think we would probably, one, because of some continues we have, and to give them a chance to prepare, I would like to entertain a motion to continue to November 12.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I did talk to the architect this afternoon, and I did inform him that they should have somebody here, but I do know they are looking at some new plans and maybe checking a new avenue to see what they may want to do, just to update the board. But I did inform him that somebody should be here just in case an issue came up with the board continuing it. I informed him the board had to vote to continue it.
So I think, yeah, I think we can move on with it and entertain a motion to continue. We know their intent, so
Mr. Chair, I move we continue 97 Lemon Street to November 12th hearing.
Second,
made and seconded to continue to November 12th. Roll call.
you guys are muted. Yep,
Ms. Lichty,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Parisi.
Yes. Okay, moving on to our next continued hearing is the petition of Terry and Edward Lafferty seeking a variance under 3.2 front yard setback, side yard setback to allow installation of a new 8x10 shed at 2 Breezy Point Road. I recognize Attorney Fine.
Thank you,
Uh,
Mr.
Mary-
Chair.
Meredith, just 1 second, please. So Joe, I wasn't here. If that was opened at the previous meeting, I wasn't here.
No,
So
it
not
never-
open. So,
It was never opened, yep.
okay, go ahead, Meredith, sorry.
No, no problem. Meredith Fine, 46 Middle Street in Gloucester, representing Ed and Terry Lafferty of 2 Breezy Point Road. The Laffertys first hired me a couple of weeks ago to help with another application. In that process, I reviewed this application. I was just back from major surgery on my back. And first I want to thank the chair for his compassion in giving me this continuance. But in the process of, so that was one issue, was that I was still recovering. The other reason I needed a continuance was that in the process of reviewing the application that the Laffertys had submitted, I had some questions about the application, and I assumed that you would as well. And so I thought it would be easier on everybody if we continued it and answered the questions that I could see. In particular, the hardship. And also there was a question about easements that was raised in the prior variance that was issued in 1999. And then I wasn't completely sure they were asking for the right relief, because it's kind of hard to see that this is a corner lot. And so the calculation of the relief that's required is a little bit different from what's required for a property that's just on one street. So that was the reason I asked for the continuance. There are actually 3 easements on this lot. Madam Clerk, could I share my screen, please?
Sure. Bill, have you got that? Oh, you know what? You came in late and I didn't make you a co-host yet.
All
I
right.
don't have that ability to do that. Either you or Joe is gonna have to do that.
You need to make me a co-host. Okay, I'm good now.
You are. Bill, you should be able to do it now. I'm gonna make both of the mayors a co-host just in case.
You're muted also, Joe. You're muted.
No, I'm not able to share it for some reason.
I'm not either able to share it. Can you try, Meredith? Are you able right now to do it? You might be able to do it right now.
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Hold on. I could make her,
I'll make you an intent. No, I can't.
can we make her a co-host too? And then move her back?
Yes, that's what we do. Make her a co-host. I don't have that ability to make her a co-host. I can only make her an attendee. That's worse, lower.
It's like we lost her.
Yeah, I think we did too. I did make her a co-host, but it looks like we lost her as well.
It takes a second for her to change her role.
Oh, okay. Bill moved her to an attendee. Hold on a second. Promote to panelist. I got it, guys. We have too many
There you
people.
go.
Ah. Okay, and now we're gonna make you a co-host, Meredith, and you should be able to share your screen.
I feel like I've been moving around a lot.
You're getting your exercise tonight.
They're just trying to move you up in the world.
And the only reason I need it is I really need to show you the easement situation.
You should be able to do it now.
You should be all set now.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, great. So when the Laffertys bought their property, they thought that they had 2 easements on the property. But in reality, there are 3 easements. And on this plan, I can show you all 3. This orange dot is a utility easement. It's just where the pole is. This red box is a drainage easement. And then this number 2 here is an easement to the city to service this pump station back here. And then the house is right here. So the shed is being proposed right here in this easement. And so I want to use this plan, and the shed is going to go right back here. And first of all, the Laffertys are proposing to shrink the size of the shed. The shed was originally proposed to be 8 by 10. And once we started discussing this situation, they suggested, well, why don't we make it a 6 by 8 and make it really portable? The other thing is that it requires less relief. And the other thing is, for those of you who've had a chance to visit, you can see this. This pump station back here is surrounded on all 4 sides by a big wooden fence. You actually cannot get into that pump station by using this easement. You can only get into it by coming down Breezy Point Road and coming up this driveway. So this easement to the city is useless because no one's using it and you can't even get at the pump station. As you can see from the file, lots of neighbors wrote and they're all in favor of it. Nobody in the neighborhood cares that there's going to be a little shed back here. In terms of the hardship is the shape of the lot by the city's taking. This taking here is probably where a shed would naturally go. And so because of the city's taking, it changed the shape of the lot. There's no place else on the lot for it to go that wouldn't require, any place you put it on the lot is going to require a request for relief. The other thing I'd point out is that a variance was already granted for this property in 1999 in order to build the house. And so the board at that time found that the shape of the lot was a hardship. And the last thing that I would point out is that because this is a corner lot, here's Breezy Point Road, here's Wheeler Street, and we're talking about back here, We have to do that calculation with the ARC, which I'm not really qualified to do. But I think the amount of relief that we're actually requesting in real life is 3.9 feet. That's for a 6x8 shed. So we're not asking for much relief. There's already been, the zoning board has already found a hardship on this property. The neighbors have absolutely no problem with it. And so I respectfully request a variance for a rear lot setback of 3.9 feet. And I'm happy to answer your questions.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Yes, please.
Meredith, have you talked to DPW? Do you have the permission from DPW to use this easement?
No.
And then I'm of the belief that the board doesn't have the authority to grant that either. You need to get permission from DPW to be able to put that there before the board could even consider doing setbacks, because they have the easement, and that easement, unless there's something else, usually you can't build on the easements.
Could we condition our decision upon that, Bill, or not?
I'm not sure. I would rather
fine.
make
I'm
sure
not
DPW would
pushing
approve
that.
it. I'm not sure what that easement exists for. That could be an easement for access, or it could be an easement for utilities. If it's access, I agree, Meredith is probably right. They probably would grant it. But if it's utilities, they may have an issue with it granting it, because if something happens, now they have a shed in the way if they have to dig up something.
Mr. Chairman,
I want to bring that to the board's attention.
may I respond? May I respond to that?
Yes, please.
I believe it's just for access.
So, but do we know if it
We have.
pumps out Breezy Point Road or it pumps through that easement to Wheeler Street?
Oh, I don't know.
Because they could have to dig up a pipe there sometime. We probably should get permission.
I'm happy, if the board wants, I'm happy to, I don't know how you'd feel about continuing it for another round and talk to Mr. Hale about it.
I don't have a problem continuing.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
That makes sense.
Doing a straight continuance or hearing it and then waiting for that last information?
Well, if the board chooses to close the public hearing and let me get that information, that would be great.
Yeah, I'd like to move it as far along as possible. So why don't we take public testimony, if there is any, and then we'll close the hearing and continue it pending that information. Everyone agrees with that?
Sure.
You could take down the plan, Meredith, off the
Yeah.
screen.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so we'll go to public testimony, and I would ask if anyone would like to speak in favor of the application. Raise your hand, please, if you want to speak in favor.
There's one panelist. Yeah,
Yep.
Joe Provaza.
Recognize Joel, Attorney Pavaza.
Thank you, Joel Pavaza, Seaside Legal Solutions, 123 Main Street. I'm speaking on behalf of Tom and Lee Evangelista. They own 154 Wheeler Street and 160 Wheeler Street. Live in the same neighborhood. They appreciate the difficulty of finding space on a lot for storage. They support their neighbors and doing what they need to do, even if it means getting a little too close to the property line to get that shed built. And they hope that you can resolve that title issue with the easements, that they can get the shed that they need. So they are in full support.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If you're communicating via your phone, you would hit *9 to raise your hand. Seeing no others, anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the shed, the application on Breezy Point? Anyone in opposition? Please raise your hand. I see none. There'll be no rebuttal. Close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
in the file, I have 11 letters of support, which I believe the members have seen, and it's on the Google Drive. I also have 2 other letters of support that were received after the deadline, and they're both in favor too. I can read them if the board wishes, but both of them are in favor of granting the variance.
okay, then we'll just enter those in the record. We won't read them. So I guess I'd entertain a motion.
Are we continuing this to the next regularly scheduled hearing?
Yeah, I think we should go just to 1029. This one's not a long.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move we continue the petition of Ed and Terry Lafferty for 2 Breezy Point Road to October 29th.
Second.
And would we want to, for the purpose of the continuance, is to gain the information
Oh, yeah.
on.
Yes, for the purpose of getting input from DPW about the easement and use of the easement for the shed.
Okay,
May I make a suggestion that that's a written document from the DPW director for the record? Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
the motion's made and seconded. Roll call vote to continue.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Ms. Lichty,
Yes.
and Mr. Parisi.
Yes. Thank you, Meredith. You've heard our decision. We'll look forward to that.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Go on.
Oh, I'll be back later.
Okay.
We'll move on to our next new hearings. First is the petition of Jared Harvey seeking a special permit under 1.9 to alter and expand the non-conforming structure to allow the petitioner to construct a new second floor to existing structure at 17 Marina Drive. Attorney Favazza.
Thank you very much. Do I have screen sharing abilities? I need to get promoted if that's okay, so I can share my screen.
You'll be all set, Joe.
Thank you. Okay. For the record, my name is Joel Pavazza. I'm an attorney at Seaside Legal Solutions. I'm here on behalf of Jared Harvey, who is the owner of 17 Marina Drive. And this one is a pretty simple one. They're trying to add a second-story addition to their existing single-family home. They are located in the R10 district, which is the medium high density district. It is a non-conforming lot. It's undersized and it's a little too narrow for the GZO requirements. However, if you go out to the neighborhood, you'll see that it's a normal sized lot, a normal shaped lot out there. And the existing structure is non-conforming. And I actually did some digging. It turns out that there was some confusion when this development was put in as to where the property lines were. And this house was built 5 feet off the property line by accident. They thought the property line was further away when it was constructed by the development company. The history for my client, they purchased in 2013. They're hoping to stay put, but they need some additional room. They're kind of outgrowing what they have on that single level right now. So the relief requested is just a special permit to alter and expand a non-conforming structure. Again, they're not increasing the side yard penetration, but they are continuing that penetration onto the second floor. That's both for spatial reasons inside the house and also for aesthetic reasons outside the house. It would look a little odd if there was this weird jog on the second floor only on the left-hand side as you look at it from the street. And obviously the lot dimensions are not changing as part of this project. These are just the building plans that are in your file. I have them here in case we need to review them. I have both the existing plans and the as-built. I'm sorry, the existing plans and the proposed plans, not the as-built. And I'll just kind of scroll through these. And obviously, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to return to it. But this is just one standard for relief that we have to meet, which is that the work being done is not going to be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing use or structure. And as you can see from this aerial shot, those lines are the elevation lines. So to the rear, you have quite a bit of separation between this property, which is outlined in green, and its nearest neighbor to the rear. And to the north, which would be the left-hand side, as you look at it from the street, you'll see that although they're a little bit closer, the house and the driveway on that neighboring property, their driveway is about 14 feet higher than this driveway is. So I think their driveway is higher up than maybe the roof of this house is currently. So certainly by adding this second floor, you're not going to be doing anything of detriment to them. And again, there's pretty dense tree cover around this property, so I don't think it's going to be impactful in any meaningful way to the neighborhood, let alone substantially more detrimental. So it's a quick one. I'm going to leave it at that. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'll take down the screen share for the time being. Or so I thought. There we go.
Would this be an instance of a two-part test?
Yes, you can certainly make a determination it's not increasing the non-conformity, although I would admit that although it's not dimensionally going closer to the property line, it is going up at the same distance. So it's your call whether you find that as an increase.
Any comment on the board for that?
Well, I think you're just putting more bulk in that setback, so I think you are intensifying the non-conforming nature. So.
That's my opinion.
Okay. So I think we will move on to the alter and expand a non-conforming. And any questions at this time for the applicant from the board?
Forward.
Okay,
Pretty straightforward. Yeah.
take some public testimony. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application for 17 Marina Drive? Please raise your hand. Anyone in favor? Seeing none. Anyone in
Mr. Chair,
opposition?
I'm sorry to interrupt. There was a letter that was sent in earlier this week, and I wasn't sure if it made the deadline or not, but Allison does have in the file one letter of support that may have been within the 72-hour no-go zone. So I just want to throw that out there. Thank you.
Right, we did,
Yes, Bill,
we
we
did
do
see
have
that. That was from the people across the street. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please raise your hand. Anyone in opposition? I see none. I will close the public hearing. And-
Chairman, just for a record, I do have the copy of that letter that was from Gail Muse and Bob Rowland in support of the project.
Okay, thank you. Entertain a motion or any other discussion by the board?
I'll make a motion on the petition of Jared Harvey seeking a special permit under 1.9 to alter, expand a non-conforming structure to allow the petitioner to construct a new second floor on the existing dwelling. I do think that it does intensify the non-conforming nature of the, it does intensify the nature of the non-conforming just by there's more mass there, but I don't think it's substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conformity. I think that, you know, as Joe pointed out, there's good screenage there on that side that they're close to the lot line, and it does rise up in elevation. So I don't think it's going to be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conformity. And I would move approval of the special permit.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call vote.
Mr. Canavo,
In favor for the special permit.
Ms. Slickby,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes, I'm in favor.
and Mr. Parisi.
I vote yes, it's certainly not more detrimental to the neighborhood. Attorney Fawaz, you've heard our decision. You've been kind enough to draft the decision for the board. We appreciate it.
Good, thank you.
And I'd ask Mr. Sanborn if he would stamp those plans and sign them for me.
I will do so, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
just to note that Carol Bailey from Leonard Street just showed up to the meeting. I just noticed she's attended the meeting. if you wanted to fill her in on the motion taken.
Yep, we can do that. Hi. So we voted to, we received your inquiry about continuing, and we decided to continue to November 12th so that you'd have time to do whatever it is you're working on and be back to us. And again, if that changes, or you can always recommunicate with us.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank-
thank you.
Yep, thank you so much.
Yep, good luck.
Yep, bye.
Okay, our next hearing is the petition of Frank Shimataro seeking a special permit under 1.9 to alter and expand a non-conforming structure and variances for front yard setback, side yard setback, and off-street parking to allow the petitioner to construct deck and stairs and convert from a two-family to a three-family dwelling at 18 Blinman Avenue.
Thank you.
This is represented by Attorney Favazza.
Okay. Once again, for the record, my name is Joel Favazza. I'm an attorney at Seaside Legal Solutions, 123 Main Street. I'm here on behalf of Frank Shimataro, who is the owner of 18 Blinman Avenue in Gloucester. And so the proposed work is to restore a three-family use. It's been used as a two-family since my clients purchased it pretty much. And there's some exterior work to get an egress deck and staircase built as part of this.
Joel,
Go ahead.
could you go back and just state your opening again? You're restoring a three-family, is that what you said?
Yeah, I'll explain that.
You just broke up. You just broke up when you said
Oh,
it.
sure,
I
yeah,
didn't
restoring,
hear it.
yes. Yes, in 1995, they received permits from the ZBA and the city council to convert to a three-family. My clients purchased in 96, and they've been using it as a two-family. So we're in the R5 district, which is the high-density residential district. The lot is oversized and conforming, but the existing structure is non-conforming. There's a front yard setback penetration. There's a right side yard setback penetration. When you modify a building like this, you usually require a special permit. I say usually because when you change your use, you kind of wipe out your protection for pre-existing non-conforming status, which means we definitely need variances. And I've just thrown in the request for a special permit to alter and expand again, sort of to just cover all my bases in case it turns out that is a requisite permit. I also want to point out that the dimensional relief we're requesting is not to expand the structure any closer than it already is to the property lines. It's simply because the change in use is going to wipe out the protection those nonconformities have. As I just was explaining to Mr. Nyman, my clients purchased in 96. The year prior, the previous owner received permission from the zoning board and the city council. As you recall, up until a year or two ago, it was a much more onerous test to get a three-family in the city. You had to get dimensional relief on an elevated scale from your board and then go to the city council for a special permit. And that was all granted. But again, my clients used it as a two-family. And if you don't continue to exercise the relief that's been granted, you effectively abandon it. In May of last year, there was a fire in the kitchen, and it damaged the building, and you destroyed the kitchen and some other parts of it. And so the Shimataro family said, well, now's probably a good time to put this back to the three-family, seeing as we already have, major sections of this house gutted as a result of the fire. And they certainly didn't want to build back as a two-family, only to have to later undo all that work if they were to restore the three-family in the future. Another part of the very brief history, or very recent history, you should have all received an opposition that was filed by the Abrams family. They own 47 Centennial Avenue. We have worked out a resolution. They have withdrawn their opposition without prejudice, and their withdrawal is conditioned upon the documents that they sent over to Allison today being accepted into the record. It's just a copy of the agreement that the parties have come to as far as some of the concerns that were cited in the opposition. And I'll go over that as we go through, but I did want to let you know, if you saw the written opposition that came in, that has been resolved. So long as,
Chairman,
Yes.
just to let you know, that wasn't received until yesterday, which came in well after the $72. It was made part of the application folder, but you have not seen it.
We didn't see the original opposition. I don't recall.
No, because it didn't come in until yesterday.
Okay.
Right, so
But we have
those are in
seen-
the record.
But the members have seen the email that came out today. At least that's when I saw the email concerning the settlement, right?
No.
No, that just went to you because I didn't want to confuse them as they hadn't seen the rest of the packet.
The board has been unaware there was any objection.
Well, so part of the agreement that we came up with this neighbor was that I would
Wait a
affirmatively
minute, Phil, I'm
represent.
sorry. I received an email today with an agreement of showing parking, showing with some other conditions, and one of the other conditions off the top of my head was that they have a right to appeal accordingly, differently than what state law says. If that's going to be part of what Attorney Favazza uses as a settlement, I really would suggest that the board continues the matter till they can review that, and also that that's reviewed by the city's legal department. Looking at it, I also think that if the board decides to agree to this, that there's going to be further relief needed. One would be for parking space size. They need a variance for that. They're also going to need a variance for parking in the front yard for a multifamily. So it's going to change the whole application, in my opinion, from what we have tonight.
So with all due respect, Mr. Sanborn, we did request variances for parking in the original application, and that settlement agreement is a private agreement that does not involve the city. It has just been asked to be made part of the record so that there's no confusion as to why the opposition has been withdrawn. But the city is not a party to that agreement, and the city is not being asked to endorse it, support it, ratify it, disagree with it. It was just for information of the board as to how the neighbors went from having an issue to not having an issue.
So Joe, do you have the variance for parking size of a parking lot?
Yeah, I think
Parking
we have,
space, I'm sorry, parking space?
yes, if you look at the application, we requested, I'll pull it up right now.
A special permit for parking is what you've requested.
Okay, but if for this agreement, they're showing two different locations for parking. And
Right,
there's no
so
layout, and they agree in the, at least it appears that it's agreed upon that they're not legal parking spaces that are meeting the City of Gloucester zoning ordinance, which therefore would need further relief for dimensional requirements on parking spaces.
So again, if you look at the application, you'll see that variance from other requirements of the zoning ordinance, off-street parking, and I believe if you get down to the table, it says 3 are required, 0 are being provided, and the relief is 3. And that's still in line with the agreement that was made with the neighbor. So we're asking for a variance, and I'll explain, if I have a chance, I'll explain exactly what we mean by that. But we request to reduce the compliant parking spaces down to 0 in our original application. So all the relief required has already been advertised for and is part of the application.
So.
Are we going to get to see this agreement?
Yeah, I'm happy to go through it. And I'm happy to show you the plans that, the updated proposals. It's all kind of baked into the presentation that I have for you tonight.
All right, so let's continue with the presentation, and then we can address those things later in the meeting.
Sure thing. So the relief requested 3 things. We have a special permit to alter and expand. Again, that's just out of an abundance of caution. I think the real one is the dimensional variances. We need to basically re-permit this building as it sits because we're wiping the protection through changing the use. And then we also need a special permit for the use change. We're converting from a 2 to a 3 family. And again, as I mentioned, it used to be city council jurisdiction, but it's been put into your wheelhouse to make these 3 family conversions more accessible to property owners. So parking variances. So we're going to provide, we've agreed with the neighbor, should the board consider it fair. We've agreed to condition our request for a variance down to 0 compliant parking spaces, that we will provide what I would call pragmatic parking for 7 cars. On this this orange area that I've indicated, which was, if you went and saw the site, you saw there's a storage pod there right now while they rebuild, and there's also a camper trailer there. That would be one of the areas, and the blue area would be a second area, which I'll explain in a moment. And the reason we say we're going to have 0 compliant spaces is because when you get to a 3-family, the GZO section 4.1 really starts making you act like you're an office building. You can't be in the front yard setback. If you're within 10 feet of any property, you have to have a barrier, curbing, fence, or a low wall. You have to have a 20-foot wide aisle, a 20-foot wide entrance. All these things that don't really make sense for a 3-family residential structure, especially in the downtown R5 district. But those are technically the requirements once you cross the threshold from 2 to 3 units. And we can't make parking lots on this site. We can park plenty of cars on this site, but we can't make parking lots and parking spaces that comply with the technical requirements. And so the proposal would be in the orange area, we would take a condition on any variance you would grant us that it has to be compacted and covered with crushed stone or a similar pervious finished surface, and have, again, what I call pragmatic room for up to 4 cars. The storage container and the camper will be removed and will not be returned. The blue area, which is accessed via a right-of-way, would also be a compacted area covered with crushed stone or similar pervious finish, and with, again, pragmatic room for up to 3 cars. So again, we'll be able to get 7 cars on site here, which is more than twice the requirement as far as number of cars, but none of these spaces are going to actually fit within the requirements of the GZO. So we have technically 0 off-street parking spaces as far as the GZO is concerned. But again, from a pragmatic, practical standpoint, we would have room for 7 cars to be parking off-street. And I would imagine during a snow emergency, if it was necessary, you'd probably squeeze a couple more, when you start blocking everybody in or something like that. But there should be space for 7 cars. Just none of those spaces meet the strict requirements of section 4.1. And that is the agreement that has been made with the neighbor. And that neighbor, I'm highlighting with my red laser pointer, he lives in this house right here. And as you can see, what happens is cars in the neighborhood tend to park along the lower portion of this property. And he's just hoping that as part of this rebuild and change in use, that the people who live here will have a driveway that is attractive to them and is more attractive to them than parking on the neighbor's lower property. And so that's the agreement that's been set tonight. And those are the conditions that I would request of the board, and that my client would gladly accept if we can get the variance down to, quote unquote, 0 off-street parking spaces, which is why I've used the word compliant in my application and tonight. Again, for your reference, these are the site plan and the architectural plans that were submitted. And so here are the standards for the 3 different pieces of relief we're requesting. Again, I'm going to kind of shade these out because I feel there's another instance where the standard for the special permit to alter and expand, we're talking about, is there a substantial detriment to the neighborhood, is very similar to, will the relief harm the public good or nullify the GZO? And in this case, it's also very similar to the finding you have to make, which is, will this be in harmony and will not adversely affect the neighborhood, zoning district, et cetera, as to outweigh the beneficial effects. And so those can all sort of be the same set of facts, hit all 3 of those pieces of standards. So to go back to the variance standards that are kind of on their own, you have to go, literal enforcement would create a hardship for the owner. Well, it would require the total demolition and rebuild. Again, the variances are for the portions of the building that already exist. And that's why the hardship does relate to the soil or shape, the topography of the structure, shape or topography of the structure or the land in question, because these dimensional nonconformities are due to the existing house. And if you look at the elevations on site, the house is likely built where it was due to the steep topography of the lot. This is the only way to kind of get it up to street level on the front side, is by putting it really close to the front yard property line. So then we have the use permit. And again, this kind of touches base with both your alter and expand and with your last test on the variance standard. And so you go through the 6-part test in 1.8.3. So again, we're implementing the 2017 housing production plan. We're allowing for more affordable with a lowercase a. This is not or deed restricted affordable, but it's practically affordable housing. This is also serving the intent of the zoning ordinance. If you read the description for what the R5 district is supposed to be, it's supposed to be high density residential development where multifamilies are encouraged. Traffic flow and safety. So again, in spirit, we're exceeding the parking requirements as far as getting cars off the street and onto the lot. Even if we're not in technical compliance with what this lot should look like, we're going to be getting these cars off the street and parked on site. There's plenty of capacity for existing utilities. This is a well-developed neighborhood in the downtown. As far as neighborhood character, again, we're in the R5 district. There's literally a 6-family house immediately next door and a 3-family on the other side, both with much smaller lots and much less or no parking. And so that this would just go to 3 units and have extra parking, extra lot area, I think is a win for the neighborhood. There's a negligible impact. Most of the work is being done in the interior. There's some exterior decks, but they're not covered. And the biggest portion of deck being constructed is being constructed over an existing roof on the first level. So it's not like there's covering a lot of green space that currently exists. And of course, the fiscal impacts, what you see with most good development, you get an increased assessment and the tax revenue that comes with it. You get a short-term economic boost for the tradespeople who do the work. And it allows the Shimataro family to remain in their home after they retire by getting a second stream of rental income that allows them to reduce down their workload and stay in the house. Obviously, it's a big house. A lot of it's being renovated right now, but it's still a big house. It still requires, a good financial burden for upkeep. And so I think the standards have been met for, again, all of the relief we requested. In the end, we're kind of looking to restore relief that was previously granted by this board and the city council. And they're looking to be good neighbors in the process, which is why they went through the lengthy and detailed negotiation with the neighbor across the street to make sure that, we could get here tonight and represent to the board that we've resolved that issue. So again, I thank you. I will end my slideshow. If you have any questions, I can always pop it back up.
Any questions by the board at this time?
So the whole agreement with the Aprans or the neighbors is about this parking on the property?
Yes, again, to be perfectly clear, the written opposition that you can read, which is in the record, or will be in the file rather, he also mentioned he was concerned about the deck, but we kind of discussed the deck issue and he agreed that, it's the downtown, he has a big deck himself, he's not going to give Frank a hard time about wanting to put a deck on his house. So he's willing to just kind of drop that so long as the parking conditions that I've proposed tonight get attached to any variance for a reduction in compliant parking. And so that's basically what it's like. He doesn't want people parking on his property, which is a fair request. And he wanted to make sure that, the deck that was going to be built wasn't going to be detrimental to him or his neighbors. And he became comfortable with it after we spoke at length.
So you're asking us to require you to put enough room for 7 cars on the lot, but not require you to have off-street parking. So why wouldn't we just give you a variance from the parking requirements and say, I'm just trying to think how this decision would read, Joel. Like, we give you a special permit so you don't have to have parking, but then condition it on you having 7 parking spaces on the lot.
Sure. So in my head, the way this would work out is you'd have the variance granted would be to reduce the number of required off-street parking, compliant off-street parking from 3 to 0, with the condition that these areas identified and presented to you tonight are turned into informal or non-compliant parking areas in which, 4 and 3 cars can be, again, using word like reasonable or pragmatically or practically, cited. Basically kind of acknowledging that this isn't a commercial building and you're not requiring the commercial parking lot that the section 4.1 requires once you get to 3 units. So, I had come here originally in the application just saying, knock me down to 0 and informally there's enough space on site, don't worry about it. But the neighbor would like it to read very specifically what this informal parking will look like. And we're totally satisfied or totally happy to satisfy him by taking that condition on the 0 parking space variance.
Okay.
On the 10-foot way, the extension of Granite Street, does your client have a right of way there? Because that's not,
Yes.
that's usually full
Yes.
of cars. Because
Yeah,
those
he
other
has-
houses that front that park there.
I was going to ask Joe.
Yeah, that is true. It's certainly used by the neighborhood, but he does have deeded access, and the neighborhood, my understanding, is pretty good about making sure everyone gets where they need to go, especially during snow emergencies. That's when that lower lot gets used a lot by Frank historically, and so they always, because it freezes over down there and becomes really good hard pack. Again, he's going to, per these conditions we're proposing, compact it anyway and put finished grade crushed stone down there. But in the past, it's been made accessible. I even think in the picture, the overhead that came from the satellite, there's a truck down there on Frank's property. So, it shows you that it is accessible to Frank in his property, despite the fact that others use that way as well.
Any other questions at this time? Okay, we'll go to public testimony. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application could please raise your hand. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? See none. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application for Quinman Avenue? Anyone in opposition, please raise your hand. See none. No opposition, so there'll be no rebuttal.
I think you
Oh.
have one of the
Chairman.
panelists.
You have a panelist, Ellen Baltz raising her hand.
Okay, you're looking to speak?
You need to unmute yourself.
You have to unmute yourself.
Unmute myself.
There you go.
Yeah, just a concern. I live in that neighborhood, and Centennial Ave is a horror right now. It's almost unnavigable. And Blimnan Ave is a blind curve. So when you're coming out of Blimnan Ave onto Centennial, and you've got people rocketing down the street and also rocketing up the street because it's pretty busy out there. It's a thoroughfare, as a matter of fact. I'm concerned about just adding more traffic to the melee.
Okay.
It's a very, very densely packed neighborhood with too many cars.
And your address was, did you give us that for the record?
34 Exchange Street.
Change, okay. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'm not actually going to say I'm in opposition, but I kind of am. I really have a problem with granting a variance or a special permit for no parking and then trying to figure out how you can jam 7 cars on a piece of property with no compliance with the local zoning ordinance at all. We have a design for parking. We have designed parking spaces. We have required distances. None of this is being adhered to. And in essence, what he's really doing is creating just a place to shove cars off his property, which in essence could be looked at as being a violation of the zoning ordinance. I would rather really take a better look at this and see if we can get something to at least make sure that he has the required relief to park the cars. I'd rather see variances for parking spaces, dimensions, how he's going to enter and access off the property. Is he just going to create one big curb cut for all this? I just think we need to see a little better design than having this sort of unique way to solve a parking problem presented before the board tonight when the members haven't had a real good time to even look at it or assess it or even drive by and see what the site looks like. I just feel I had to say that tonight. Thank you.
anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, Attorney Pavazza, wish to give a rebuttal at this point?
Sure. So to Ms. Ball's point, I appreciate, the concern, but at the end of the day, this city through its elected officials, has designated this area as high density and has been taking steps in the last few years to make three-family development even more accessible. And so it's, you know, it's hard on the one hand say this is where we want the high density development, and on the other hand say, but we don't want extra cars, because with high density residential development, you get high density traffic. And that's the area of town has been designated as appropriate for this sort of development. To Mr. Sanborn's point, again, it is a violation, and that is why we are asking for a variance. So at the end of the day, the requirement would be reduced from needing 3 to needing 0. We're just going, you know, kind of beyond and saying, you know, but we'll give you some parameters as to what the parking will actually look like. As far as the answer to the curb cut question, we'd be using what already exists on site where that pod is up top, and we'd be using what already exists on site on that little extension off of Granite Street down below. It wouldn't be any modification of what's out there. I don't know how many of you had a chance to go out and look at it before the meeting, but what's there is going to be improved as far as compacting and putting a finished surface on it. But otherwise, it's not going to be altered. Now, it's obviously up to the discretion of this board. If you have questions, you know, from where I'm sitting, it seems pretty basic. We're taking what's already there and making it function better. But if you wanted to continue this, you can get back out there. You know, we'd host a site visit gladly if that's what is necessary to get the board comfortable with the proposal here. But I don't know if it's necessary, given that it's just using what is there now and making it a little bit better. You know, per the description provided you tonight.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I've been out to the site. I actually owned homes on that street, a few houses down, so I'm very familiar. But what I was surprised that we didn't see was, so the Shimataros have functioned there with a couple of parking spaces off the street for 20 years. And so why aren't we coming in with at least, I could see if you came in and said, hey, we only can get 2 really good parking spaces. So we'd like to get a variance from 3 to 2, and we can provide some extra space down below. But I'm not too happy about granting a 3 to 0 variance when we're not even trying to meet the code for the parking. Just a thought. Any other board members want to give an opinion?
I mean, I'm sort of looking at, like, why wouldn't we be giving you, if you know, going to a 3-family doesn't seem to be a problem to me, but parking is a concern up there, right? And I mean, it is a high density. I have no problem with 3 units, but parking is definitely a concern. So why wouldn't we just approach it by saying we give you a variance from the parking regulations, but still have some parking requirements on the property? And I guess I'm a little confused as to how the parking is gonna work out, because the parking plan is just new tonight. It's not on anything that we got in our packets.
Right.
I mean, you presented some in your presentation. So I mean, I myself am, you know, conceptually fine with a 3-family. I do feel like I need a little bit better handle on this parking scheme.
Certainly, and again, just to respond, if I may, the concern would be that because it's a dense neighborhood, and I grew up, you know, I grew up on Chestnut Street, so I understand what it's like to have, you know, limited parking. We were one of the few houses that had a driveway over there, and so I was thinking quantity over quality. You would be doing more of a disservice to the neighborhood if you said, you know what, I'm going to make between the 2 places, I'm going to make 3 compliant parking spaces, which is all I'm required to do. I need a variance to maybe in the front yard setback, which I can't avoid. But if you give me a variance in the front yard setback, yes, I'll make 3 compliant parking spaces. Well, great. Now I can get 3 cars off the road. You let us go this way, I can get twice that off the road. But none of them will count as compliant parking spaces. So just
I like the idea of going for the more parking, because even though 3 is required, if you have 2 adults in each unit, you're gonna have you could have 6 cars. So.
right. If it's
So I
6
appreciate
compliant.
your creativity, Joel. I guess I'm just a little unclear. I don't know.
Mr. Chair, would it make sense to come out to the site to see?
Well,
I'd
we
like
haven't
to go to
even
the site.
seen a parking plan right now. all we've gotten so far in the application is this drawing. It doesn't mention a parking spot at all on this drawing that we got. So I think it's incomplete in that we don't know where you put, I can't just say, yeah, throw 7 cars somewhere on this lot and we're gonna accept that in a decision. Doesn't work that way. I
Sure.
have nothing that shows parking.
Sure. The reason there was no parking plan was because until we got into these negotiations with the neighbor, the plan was the parking that exists will remain unchanged. So there wasn't going to be a parking plan because I was going to say, hey, listen, there's 2 parking areas currently. We're not going to touch them. They're going to stay the same. There's more than enough room, but none are compliant, and that's why there was no parking plan, because it was just an existing conditions continuation. Now that the neighbor has asked us to make some modifications, that's, again, we just settled it today. That's why you're seeing it for the first time, because it just got negotiated to the end today. So I'm happy if you want a supplemental submission based on this agreement, that's fine. But it wasn't that it was an incomplete filing, it was that our proposal has has changed. Our original proposal was we'll change the parking, and now it's, okay, we'll change the parking to make more.
But so you were gonna leave, this was gonna be your submittal with no parking in the proposal.
No compliant parking. I was going to come before you and say, if you went out there, you'll see there's parking up top, there's parking down below. That's how it's historically functioned. It's going to function the same. It's only because the neighbor has asked us to increase the parking that we are now in this parking plan situation, which is fine.
No, also because you're asking for a change of use means you now need 3 parking spaces. So.
Right, but our request was for a variance for 0.
Yeah, I don't think you would have got that, to be honest with you, but you got to try to give us something.
Sure.
There's plenty of land there to provide parking.
That's absolutely true, and we can do that. And so with some direction from the board, I'd be happy to request a continuance and resubmit a formal parking plan. Again, through the chair, if I'd like to just hear from the board whether the preference would be gearing toward quantity of cars off the street or adherence to the regulations, because they're going to be in conflict with each other. And we can go either way. Whatever satisfies the board is the way we can go. But I'd like to just get a little feedback so I know which way to direct my client.
Anyone comment on anything?
Well, for practical purposes, I think more parking would be better, right? As long, I guess I'm with Michael. I think I need to go back out there again and look at it with an eye to parking, which it really wasn't looking at when I went out there.
We lost you.
Me?
Yeah.
I would say I would like to go out there again and see it with an eye to the parking, and I would rather see more spaces than less would be my preference, as long as they can have good sight lines and not crazy kind of parking. But yeah, I don't know what others think.
No, that makes the most sense, Catherine.
I need to go
I
see it
want to
again.
see something on the drawing.
Yeah, we need a parking plan right.
I
Yeah.
know where Frank parked his cars all these years, but that's not on the application before me.
I
So
got
I need to see where the cars are going to be.
That's no problem.
If I may, once more, Mr. Chairman, I think my real problem is if there's no parking and things change, that means there's no parking. That means he can just do away with all the parking spaces altogether and not be in violation. And that doesn't help the parking problem at all. I just think it could be worked out. Somehow it can be worked out where we can come to something that the board could agree upon and not create a problem, not opening up something, and then they could find a way how to park more cars.
In the future, yeah.
Sure, and that's why we were going to propose those conditions, so that we couldn't just go to straight 0. It would have to be, and so that seems to be all workable once we get an updated plan to you.
Yeah.
I think we're all in agreement here.
Okay, so when we're going to do a continuance,
Where would you like to?
people can take a look at it on their own. We don't need it.
Yeah, once we get the parking plan, I feel I can go out there on my own, or call Joe.
Let's get something with some parking on it that we could look at and continue this. Allison, the 29th is, we have a few continuances already. Are there new applications in?
We received one from when I left today. Today was the deadline. Bill, do you
Okay.
know?
Because we
if there
have.
were more, or Greg would know the total number, actually.
Greg, do you have the total number of applicants for today? Cutoff?
For next meeting?
Yeah, there are two that came in this morning.
And then 3
There were-
continuances.
Yeah, and 3 continuances.
Right, okay. So we can handle one more.
I think so, yep.
Yeah, so we're talking about October
Need a
29th.
motion.
So Joe,
I
will you get that parking plan to us in the next week and a half?
I'll have it to you by the end of next week.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so, Mr. Chair, I move we continue the petition at 18 Bliven Avenue to October 29th.
Motion made, seconded.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Slichty,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
and Mr. Parisi.
Yes. Okay, we're
Thank you.
continuing on that to the 29th.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. The next hearing is the petition of Ellen Baltz seeking a variance to exceed fence 6 feet in height to allow petitioner to construct a fence 10 feet in height at 34 Exchange Street. Can you unmute yourself there? Ms. Baltz, you're muted. Muted. Anybody know sign language?
We can't hear you, you're muted.
All right, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah, up to 10 feet.
Yeah,
Your name and address for the record, please.
Ellen Baltz, 34 Exchange Street.
Okay, and you can tell us about what you're trying to do.
Okay, I bought the house in 2018, and the place was a mess, to tell you the truth. Both chain link fences were on their last legs. And, you know, I've had a survey done, as a matter of fact, to find out exactly where my property lines are, and done a lot of work on the property. I'm house proud. I always improve my property. It became almost impossible, though, with my neighbor growing marijuana up against that fence, that communal fence that we have separating us. We're about 10 feet apart. You know, these houses were tract houses of the 1800s. So everybody's pretty close. But the smell of marijuana was just overwhelming. And also the fact that his property is 3 feet above mine. Really, you know, just the fence that divides us is not adequate to afford me any privacy at all. So it's really a two-pronged thing. It's about privacy, and it's about the marijuana that's grown in the backyard. Another thing is that they have a child who continues to throw balls into my yard. And this seems to have been an ongoing thing, but it just gets tiresome after a while.
So would the fence you're proposing to build, would it be on your lawn level? Inside the stone wall, or?
Now that I know that I do own the stone wall, I mean, I could put it on the stone wall. And that would relieve the need for, you know, this abatement, because it would be a 6-foot fence, you know, effectively a 9-foot fence for me. And, you know, that would satisfy all of my needs. It would be a chain link fence. It wouldn't be anything fancy, anything that would blow down. And I'm already working with a contractor, a Reliable Fence. I'm already working with Reliable Fence on a chain link fence on the part of my property that does not need an abatement, but this is something that since I looked at the survey and realized that I could put it on the granite wall, and that the guys at Reliable said, we do this all the time. We do granite walls all the time. Then, it became kind of, just easier to put it on the stone wall, kill two birds with one stone.
So why are we here? I'm not understanding.
No, I understand that. And in fact, if I were to put it on my property, it would have to be at least a 9-foot fence.
If you put it on the ground, but if you put it on the stone wall, you could just put a 6-foot fence on top of that. and
Exactly.
meet your needs.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so the
And it's-
measurement of, the
It's about
measurement,
it's about a 40-foot run.
right, we've been there. So if we could ask you some questions.
Okay.
So the fence that's on the wall now is fairly tall. How tall is that?
I think it's maybe 4 feet.
Oh, it seemed much higher, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's higher because my property is lower.
no, I understand. I was there, I went up both sides and
Yeah.
I couldn't see over it from your yard, so, but I imagine they can into you.
Well, they can and they do.
Yeah.
And
So are you
you
sure
know,
you
I
don't?
live alone. I mean, I just,
We're gonna talk one at a time. Okay, so are you sure, if you can place it on the stone wall, you don't even have to be before us? I
right.
think you need to decide what you want to do. If you're gonna set it inside the stone wall and you want it to be 9 feet tall, then we'll continue and make a decision.
Okay.
You have to decide that. We don't,
I'd like to have an option to do both. Depending on what's recommended to me by the experts, saying the best way to do this, or, the way that we can do this most efficiently is this. Because they've got to drill into the granite and do a lot of engineering.
so I have a question for the building inspector. So since her yard is lower,
Mhm.
and doesn't it go by the spite fence piece of what shows to your neighbor, like up to 6 feet? I mean, if her yard's 3 feet lower and she puts a 9-foot fence up, would it still require anything from us? Where only 6 feet of it is above the next door neighbor's property?
Actually, it's
How
Mr.
it's measured from,
I'm asking a question of the building
Oh,
inspector.
sorry.
how it's measured. If it's in the center of the wall, then it will be measured from the wall. If it sits on the grade on the ground, even if it's next to the wall, it's going to be measured from the ground to the top of the fence.
So
Okay.
not the part that would encroach over the neighbor, but the
No.
total fence, okay.
Right. And also, just so you know, that if a fence is over 8 feet high, it does need to be designed by a structural engineer.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Even if it's a chain link.
You muted.
Yes, even if it's a chain link. Simply, the easiest reason to explain is because of what you did right here. You hung a top on it, and by hanging a top on it, it becomes a sail. So yes, it does need to be a
Well,
structural.
It's the cloth that they sell to put on chain link fences that has,
And that's why we require a structural engineer.
right. Right. It's a dilemma. My neighbor does have a 9-foot fence on the other side of his property. So, I sort of don't know where that came from. I mean, I was thinking stockade fence, but I just feel that that's a little bit too much.
Okay, so we're gonna proceed with the variance for a 10-foot fence.
Well, up to 10 feet.
Right.
Yeah.
You're gonna need a permit to do it, and then the requirements of the engineering will come into play there if it's approved.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move on to public testimony. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application on 34 Exchange Street? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Please raise your hand. I see none. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the fence? The variance for the fence? Anyone in opposition? Again, I see no one. So I'll close the public hearing. Discussion by the board, please.
Yeah, comment from my side. I just want to make sure if we grant this variance, I'm not really very excited about myself, but if we granted this variance, I would want it really clear that it could not be on the stone wall. And it's not what the applicant is suggesting, but like we were talking about the previous one, I don't want to grant something that I didn't mean to grant. The only reason I would be willing to go along with the taller fence is because it would be on her property side of that stone wall, so that it would appear to be approximately a 6-foot fence.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, it's our turn, please. Yeah. You understand? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. I would condition it to say on the fact that it goes on the ground. So it doesn't end up being a, 12-foot fence.
Right, exactly.
On the wall. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, good call, Mike, yeah.
All righty, then we'll entertain a motion with the conditions.
Yeah. On
Mr.
the,
Chairman, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, the mayor would like to speak.
Sure. Oh, yes.
Sorry, I have 3 Zooms going. I have a question. Standard fences without ZBA is how tall?
6 foot.
6.
6, and she wants 10?
Yes.
So
Up to.
you're telling up to 10. Well, you got to figure out up to what. I just don't want it because I don't like my neighbor. I want it 10 feet. I don't like this one because he's growing this. It's things. We have a minority. We have everyone growing different things that are legal to grow, or someone's throwing a rock, or we play at a church. You throw something. What are we setting here? I need to know. So when someone says to me, well, why can someone get 10 feet? And I had to take mine down, and we had a lawsuit for 15 years. And I'll say it, the Gattineri place across from the tavern. So where are we going this? I need a little bit, I'm not saying yes or no for her. I just want an explanation is that 10-foot legal, we did a reason why we put 6 feet, I guess, and 8 feet, but you're going way up to 10 feet because you don't want to see your neighbor.
No,
No, I'm talking. I'm asking them. I don't know what I'm not asking you. You should have your mic off. I don't mean to be rude, but I'm asking, what's the hardship? Do you ask for hardship on this? Because I'm trying to educate myself. And I'm hearing some people say, well, I don't like it, but I do, but I don't. I need to educate myself so what would be the hardship? What would be the reason?
Well, I'll just say for myself, one of the considerations is that her lot is at a lower elevation than her neighbor's. So if the point of a fence is to provide you with some privacy and you're 3 feet lower, you're not really getting much out of the fence because your neighbor.
See, that's what I needed to know. I didn't understand what was going on. Thank you. Thank you very much, because I understand now. Because when someone says, oh, well, I'm in the flood zone, or I'm here, I need to know. Because I'm trying to, like I told you, I'm trying to learn. Thank you very much. So it's 3 feet. So when she puts by that and that goes up to, you're right. I guess so. It's the same size. All right. That's what I need to know. Thank you.
It will appear only 6 feet to her neighbor.
Yeah. I just needed to know the difference and why, because remember how we were being sued, and I don't want to get sued from another neighbor, and it cost us like 15 years of arguing about a fence. That was ridiculous. I just don't want us to waste money. Thank you. That's perfect.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
On the petition of Ellen Balt seeking a variance to exceed the 6 feet in height to allow petitioner to construct a fence 10 feet in height at 34 Exchange Street. I think that I normally don't like these high fences, but I think given the way your lot is situated compared to your neighbors, that is creating a hardship that justifies a variance. It would, however, condition that on the 10 feet is granted if you put it in the ground, not on top of the stone wall. So I would move approval of a variance with that condition.
We have a motion.
Reluctantly, I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded to allow a variance for a fence up to 10 feet to be measured from and erected from the applicant's ground level. Roll call vote.
Ms. Slichty,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
Yeah, I'm going to vote yes with an encouragement to the applicant to put her fence 6 feet on top of the wall. But I'll give her the variance if she chooses to put her fence on on her property side of that wall on the ground.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
and Mr. Parisi.
I vote yes also. I think, I agree with Michael. We could have not been here and just put a fence on the wall, but that's fine. They can go either way now. You've heard our decision is positive. We'll draft the decision, have it signed and vote, and let you know when you can get that, which will have to be registered at the Registry of Deeds and a permit taken out and meeting any criteria of the building department. Thank you.
Mr. Parisi, sorry, Mr. Chairman, we need somebody to write this one, please.
Yep. I will take care of it. Okay, moving on to our last hearing, and I just want to say to the members, after that, there were 3 other issues I want to discuss with the board. But the last hearing is the petition of Karen P. Otto, seeking a special permit under 3.2 to exceed accessory structure height and variances under 3.2 for side yard setback and rear yard setback to allow petitioner to construct a 1-car garage at 12 Old Salem Road. And the applicant or who's representing them?
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Meredith is, Joe.
Merit?
Yes.
Oh, you are, okay. I didn't see it on here. Great. I recognize Attorney Fine.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. My name is Meredith Fine. I'm an attorney at 46 Middle Street. I represent Karen Otto, who is on this call, and also her architect, Sandra Cook, is also standing by to answer any questions. What Ms. Otto would like to do is build a 1-car garage with some storage. Madam Clerk, can I share my screen? I think I can share it. I think I have the power to do it anyway.
You should be able to do it on your own.
Yeah.
Here you
go. This is up in West Gloucester off Old Salem Road. The lot is incredibly got a lot of ledge, a lot of boulders. So she wants to, if you had a chance to visit, most of the driveway is not even on her property. There's a little turnoff right here that's not on her property. So she wants to build a small garage right here. When you look at the property, there's a steep drop off on this side, and then there's a steep drop off in the back. If you ever want to explain to your friends what a hardship in the land looks like, it looks like this. Let me see if I can get this smaller. So this is what the property looks like. And she'll come up this driveway. The garage would go right here. She'll have to do some blasting. Any place on the property that is even remotely close to the driveway would require relief. The reason we need, we're looking for 2 variances, 6 feet on the side and 5 feet in the rear. And then in terms of the height, what I want to show you is that, so she's going to have, the city measures the average grade from the current existing average grade, which is this red line right here. And because they're going to be blasting a hole for this, and so it's actually going to be lower than the existing grade. But because the city measures from the current average grade, it's going to be, the building will be higher, will be 19.6 feet. But in real life, once it's finally built, it'll be below well below the average grade. And, but that's why we have to seek relief for the height. Um, As you can see, there's only one real neighbor. The trustees of reservations own all around the side of it. And then over across the street here is one neighbor, and that neighbor submitted a letter in support. I respectfully request 2 variances for side and rear setback and a special permit for height for this accessory building. Happy to answer your questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions by the board at this time?
Do you need me to keep the screen up or do you want me to close it?
No, that's okay. If you could take it down, please.
No, I think you gave me an easy one tonight, Meredith, so.
Yeah, beautiful.
That was my hope.
We'll take some, we'll go to public testimony. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? Please raise your hand. Anyone in favor? I have a panelist.
The mayor.
The mayor again.
That was simple. That I understood. Thank you very much. No questions. See, I'm learning. That was really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone in opposition? Please raise your hand. Anyone in opposition? I see none. Discussion by the board. I would just say beautiful. I mean, I went up there and visited. What a beautiful home.
Beautiful.
Perfect place
Right.
to put this garage, you know, in that corner with all that ledge. Probably meets about every possible need we would have to come up with for the hardship. And the height is only because it's an accessory building and it's above 12 feet. It's not like we're going over 30 feet. So some simple things, I think. But I will, any other discussion? I'll take a motion.
No, it looks like a nice little project. On the petition of Karen Otto, seeking a special permit to exceed the accessory structure height and variances for side and rear yard to allow the petitioner to construct a one-car garage at 12 Old Salem Road. I think clearly have demonstrated a hardship. I don't think that even with the hardship, she's still going to have to blast. I think that the variances I would move approval of the special permit for height and variances.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call vote.
Mr. Nyman?
Yes. Both
Mr.
variants.
Mr. Canavo?
Yes.
Ms. Lichty?
Yes on the special permit, yes on the variances.
Mr. Parisi?
I vote yes on all three. Meredith, you've heard our decision. It's favorable. If you would create a draft for us, we'd appreciate that. And I asked if the building inspector would stamp and sign those plans for us.
Thank you all very much, and it's great to see you. Have a good rest of your
Thanks.
day.
Nice seeing you too, Meredith.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Heal up fast.
Yeah, hope you feel better soon.
Oh, thanks. I feel better every day. Thanks very
Good.
much.
Good. Okay, I have three other issues I wanted to bring the board up to date on and a little discussion. The first one is, I don't know if you recall, when we first went into the pandemic and had to meet remotely, we had a hearing that I exercised the right to continue indefinitely for out on Rocky Neck for the entire application. It was to convert to a two-family across from the Rocky Neck Railways. God knows I never expected that we wouldn't be back meeting within a month or two and been able to hear that. And the reason I exercised that at the time was it was a pretty involved application. There was a lot of questions. There was a lot of testimony from the public in opposition, some in favor, but some pretty elaborate points made that we're going to require, one, us to be able to grasp it over the screen and to be able to, you know, figure that all out before we could take action. Who knew it would be 7 months later? And in fairness, I received an inquiry from Mr. Taylor asking if we would be able to hear this at some point. Obviously, being delayed this long is a hardship to keep that property waiting. I'm just looking to see what the board thinks. I mean, it's my call, I guess, but I wanted to ask you all what you thought. You remember the hearing, I think, and whether you feel we could successfully, I think if we were very strict about what they provided to us up front, we're getting too many of these hearings where we don't have all the information. And I really, in this one, we really would need to have submittals in advance that we could study.
Yeah.
I think we'd obviously have to let Attorney Frontiero begin his presentation again. We'd have to re-advertise this and kind of almost like a new application in a way, because we didn't close the public hearing, we just continued it. So what does anyone think about that? I know I'm willing to consider it, but I wanted you folks and thoughts first.
Well, I think that we're getting better at the Zoom. I think people are getting better at being able to figure out how they can participate in Zoom meetings. I mean, when that came on, that was like one of our first Zoom. So, and I do think it's kind of unfair to keep the applicant holding on. So I would certainly be willing to have a hearing over Zoom.
Okay.
I would be willing. Yep. I would be
Alrighty.
willing.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Yeah, no, that's fine.
So I think what I'm going to do is have it re-advertised and put on for November. The first, we only have one meeting in November, one meeting in December, as you recall,
Right.
unless we schedule some special meetings, which we'll talk about next. But
That meeting might take a lot.
so I think this one we'll go for the November. We'll try to get it in for the November 12th. We don't need a vote or anything. I'm just going to instruct that be done.
Mr. Chairman, I would also suggest that the abutters be re-notified where it's been so long. But also, just to remind you, I believe there's another one out there for attorney.
Go down the full for the fisheries.
For the fisheries, yeah, I think that one's hanging there too.
Mark
If we
Nestor.
wanted to check with him, I can check with him if you want to see if we want to bring that forward.
Yeah, I think that one we were more, there seemed to be more kind of like Conlin Road, there was negotiation going on, but if we're ready to move on that, we can certainly do that maybe in
I
December.
haven't heard anything on it for a long time, so I'll touch base with Attorney Nestor and see where we're at with that.
All right, and that's all we have outstanding on that regard at this point. The other thing I wanted to discuss is, I sent out some mailings for you. We're having a special meeting on the 22nd of this month, and it's to open up the public hearing on the 40B application for the YMCA on Middle Street. We've already done a lot of the processes where we have to notify all the different boards and commissions and submit the plans for them so that they can give their opinions back. And because these type of things, those of you that remember or have been involved in any of them, get involved in waivers. A lot of the zoning things we have to accept as a 40B, but there's a lot of waivers in it. So it gets a little involved. The city has hired an expert for us. I don't know if you remember Mr. Smolak from the, that was on the other side.
He was, yeah.
Someone from his office is going to represent the city and help us through the process with this application. And I'll be talking to her before our meeting. There are packets put together, books available at the office for you all to pick up. It's 100 and something pages, just the application. And also with the help of the building department, the help of the planning department, Greg Catamatori, we'll figure out our way through this. It's this one, I think it'll be a lot easier and won't require the amount of meeting that we had on Main Street. And also, when we open the special meeting, I'm going to first have this attorney that's representing us explain to the board and to everyone just what the whole process will be. So we'll spend the first half hour talking about that, so we all know what to expect, how to plan, how to schedule. And again, I will reiterate the request that any submittals have to get to us so that this old Zoom thing, that's one of the difficult things. If you don't get the paper, we can't just hand it to you at the table. We need information to flow ahead of time and freely. So I just want to give everybody a heads up on what was going on with that.
Yep.
It looks like a good project, but we obviously have to make sure it's done properly for the city's benefit and that we address all the waivers. The third thing and last thing I wanted to
Question,
mention.
quick
an update
quick
for
question.
everyone.
Yeah. Joe, where are the
The,
packets?
Annex Road, right in the front door when you go in.
Oh, yeah, so the books are there as well, is that what
The
you're talking about?
books,
Yeah, same place
You
you
know,
pick up.
I was right there and they were probably there and I didn't know that's what they were. Yeah.
Yeah, binder
Okay.
book, yeah.
I understand.
The other thing is I just got an update from the city legal department, probably today it was, maybe yesterday. If you recall, Weston Avenue, we had a lawsuit, an appeal. Michael Fady represented the woman next door and Meredith represented
Oh, yeah.
Right in the corner. Yep.
Meredith had moved for dismissal. That was denied, so it will go further on. They are talking about trying to negotiate, but just so everyone knew about that. I never used to know what was going on. Now they tell me, so I share it with all of you. So
Yep.
we'll hear more about that probably in forever. Anybody else have anything they wanted to ask about or discuss or bring up before we close?
No, I think it'll be very helpful to have the attorney kind of, because I've never been through a 40B application, so I think I appreciate that you're going to bring in someone to kind of just lay the groundwork for those of us who've not been through it before.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is they have to like prove why there's all feasibility things and just stuff way beyond
The norm.
the average person to do the calculations of and everything. And we just have to make sure we verified it in the best interest of the city and approve it. So that's where we're heading with that. So it should be good, should be fun. I'm hoping that's not going to require a lot of special meetings. We'll see how we're going to limit it to. So the meeting next 2 weeks from now, we're going to give a half hour to the opening, and then we're going to limit it to 9 o'clock. So we're not going to go, I mean, sometimes these things, there's going to be a lot of people giving testimony, special experts and all that. And we're also going to find out who the panelists are going to be up front and limit it. We're not going to have 40 panelists because anyone that's involved in the Y might want to, they can speak as an attendee, but the panelists need to be focused on just the people presenting facts to us, and we'll limit that somewhat. So should be good. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Can I ask a couple of questions? Give a couple notes. One, me and Allison, whenever we get something within 72 hours, battle over whether we should give it to the board or not. I understand it's not recognized. I guess my question just is, do you want to receive it? If we got, like today, we got that email saying they had to agreement. I know the policy is, and we do tell people all the time, 72 hours, you don't have it that, you can't submit it. I guess my question is, do you just want that little information available to the board or not?
Yeah, so the difficult part, the presenter would be able to hand that to us before the meeting, and that was acceptable, and he could read it or tell us about it or show us it. Without, like I say, you can't fax it over to me, so we don't have a way of getting our hands on it. So I'd rather at least it be in the drive or something, and a note saying there's something in there. Because I don't know about you guys, but I don't live in my zoning Google Drive all day. I got a few other things to do. So if I had a heads up, I would go get it and print it out.
Okay, so we can do, go ahead, Allison,
Just a
please.
question. Would that need to be voted on where, I am not muted, right? That it was voted on that it was, and this is what I tell people, this is why I'm questioning, is that if we do not receive it 72 hours prior to the meeting, then it will not be viewed or taken into consideration, is what was voted on.
But what we decided was that they would have to present it at the meeting to us.
Right.
But they don't have the ability, the average citizen, to present it to us in this format. Why, if it can come across in an email to you and then be forwarded to us, at least we're not saying that we have to have read it, but when the person mentions it, we'll at least be able to say, okay, here it is. I've got the copy.
Okay.
Okay.
Understood.
All right. Another note on that is on the rules and regulations, because we're a question, where does this live? Is with the board's permission, can we authorize Allison to add that to the board's rules and regulations? So we have a place where it actually lives when we get questioned on it.
You mean the Google Drive?
No, we actually have a pamphlet that has the rules rules and regulations of the,
Oh,
we've adopted the procedures a couple of times and modified them from time to time. Yeah, I would agree. Let's add that to that. If we have to attach that to a minutes coming up, that we would just give it a approval, that's okay too, to make it really official, but yeah, go to it.
okay, perfect. The other two items that are coming to mind is on the 40B, the members should really start to think about how you want to schedule the extra meetings and when they want to be. They do not have to be on a Thursday night, although that's best. But we do have other boards that meet, especially the planning board usually meets every other week of the planning, or there's a CBA. This 22nd happens to be an extra week of the month, so there's free. So keep an idea of when, start thinking of when you want to meet, because there probably will be more than one meeting. And the other thing to keep in mind is during questionings or during their presentations, they're going to get technical. They're going to tell you all about the drainage and how much water can go through here and how much can go through there. If you're not understanding any of this stuff, you can ask for one of the city department heads to come up and explain it to you. So keep that in mind. They only go one route, so once you approve it, you're approving this whole project. And that's the key thing to remember. Don't be afraid to ask city departments who are responsible for this what the deal is, how it affects it, okay?
Bill, would there be something like, the right questions to ask, you know what I mean? Because some of us might not even know what question to ask that should be brought to their attention to be, explained. Is there anything you could educate us on?
The department heads are going to meet. We're going to meet on this, and we're going to have we used to call them tag meetings. I don't think we call them that anymore. But we're going to sit down together, go over the plans like we always do with major projects. And we're going to iron out all the details. So the little bit of stuff, no, you just really want to understand if something pops up and there's a controversy coming up. I can't think of anything off the top of it, but if that comes up and you don't understand what somebody's trying to argue, you have a lot of resources. You can say, okay, hold that, continue that, let's go to the resource and let's ask, Mike Hale at DPW, the director, what does he think about the sidewalks? What they're doing to the sidewalk, just an example. You may want to go to the city engineer. Okay.
During these meetings, will any of those people be presenting or panelists or anything like that, or we just have to?
I don't think they'll be presented as panelists. I know you can present the questions to them for answers, and you probably can ask them if they could attend a meeting if it's really an issue that needs to be brought.
One of the things that happens, Peter, one of the things that happens is we've submitted the plans and the application to all these different boards, and I'll tell you who they are. They have an opportunity to feedback to us. Yeah, I think this is great, but often you'll get like the fire chief will say, no, this is good, this is good, this is good, but I also want a call box. Or the DPW director will say, yeah, we have no problem with this. That's the right line to tap into, but we don't feel they should get a waiver for the fee to tie into the water line. It's little stuff like that that we have to decide. They're going to argue for all the variances, the waivers, and we're going to take the advice mostly of the professionals. And
Right.
they all, this has gone out to planning board, conservation, historic, board of health, DPW, the fire department, the police department, the traffic department. So all the different parts of the city are already looking at these drawings, and they'll give us feedback and written reports most of the time that will tell us what they think about the plan and everything. And then we basically in the beginning, we'll listen to the attorney teach us about the process again. We'll listen to the presentation, and like Bill said, at any time, feel free to say, okay, can we get more clarity on that? And it doesn't necessarily have to come from them, because we want it to come from our experts, okay?
Sure, no, of course.
Could go very well, fun, an interesting process, and we'll learn a lot about building.
Yeah, it seems cool.
Who's actually developing the property?
YMCA.
It's the
So
YMCA.
it is. They're going to continue to own it.
Yes.
Yeah, like they do next door with the housing next door for the homeless. They have applications kind of like the other one did through the consortiums and different things that will help fund it. It's a big, big project, a lot of money. So it'll be interesting.
And we have a site visit this Saturday.
We do this Saturday at 9 o'clock, 154 Wheeler Street is the site visit. You
Yeah.
folks will remember the application to build the garage and second floor
yeah.
on there. Now, Michael, you weren't here at that hearing. Are you going to be able to participate either by listening to the sound and then making the site visit Saturday, or are you staying out of it?
Do I need to be involved?
Well,
That's
there's
just an
only
honest
4.
question.
Probably,
Or-
it's kind of contentious.
Say it again.
And
We
it's a
value
very
your input.
small. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
A lot
I'll come.
of- A lot of
Yep.
people against it, a lot of people for it, and that's why we
Okay.
decided to have
Yep.
the site visit Saturday. Now, when
So
the
the site
site,
visit's what time? What time is it?
9 o'clock.
9
And just
o'clock?
so everyone knows, when we get there for the site visit, so this is not a back and forth. We're going to see who, record who's there. We're going to allow the applicant to point out anything we want. There's not going to be a give and take. I kind of like to not even talk, and let them point out what they want. Then we'll let anybody in the neighborhood point out what they want us to see. That's what this is about, us seeing what they object to, or the applicant showing us why it won't be whatever his argument is. So that's kind of what this is going to be. It won't take forever, but it's, like I say, it's more of an observation for us. We're not going to get into any neighborhood testimony or anything. They're free to show us stuff. We'll all have to socially distance and wear masks. But I think it can, be explained clear enough. Not much
Joe.
talking down there, but,
I just got informed today by my boss that they need me to come in Saturday, but I will go back again later when I get home from work. I'm going to shoot right over there so I can get another look at it.
Yep. So the site
so I just
visit
let
is
you
not a
know.
requirement. You're
No,
not
I know,
required- No, I know, I just want to make it clear that that doesn't nullify us having the quorum or anything.
Right.
But yeah, you take a look at it yourself and when the
Yeah.
hearing comes up. And that'll be, and hopefully Michael can participate too, so that we have a full board. So,
So remind me how do I get a audio or video or whatever?
Mike, you can go on, I'm not sure what to find you the link, but you would actually go online and watch the meeting. You can view the Zoom meeting, and that'll qualify for you.
Allison sent me a link the last time, which was helpful.
I did, but we don't record it the way we used to. So I don't know that I can send a Zoom link. I think that I can show you very easily how to get to it on the website though.
and
Super
that
easy.
doesn't have to be before Saturday, Michael. You can.
No, I understand. Yep.
Yeah.
Allison, can you just send me like a quick email and just walk me through it? Like a little bullet
Absolutely.
point or something like that? Yep.
Yep, super
And I'll
easy.
just do it when I have some time. Yep.
Okay. If anybody's, nothing else, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you
All
all.
right, thank you.
Thank you all, have a good night.
Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah.
You take care.